The land of Adaeze was truly a paradise on earth, a place where every sunrise painted the skies in golden streaks, where laughter echoed from farms to rivers, and where the fragrance of roasted maize floated in the evening air. Children ran around barefooted, chasing after butterflies, while the elders sat under the giant iroko tree to share tales of old. Every night, the moon glowed brighter over the village square, and families gathered to listen to the voices of the ancestors spoken through the old storytellers. Peace, love, and unity flowed like the rivers that surrounded the land. Every household seemed complete, except one. In the compound of Emeka, the joy that once filled the air had long turned into silence. But it was not always so. Years ago, his home had been a symbol of love and laughter. Emeka, a tall and hard-working man, known for his skill in crafting traditional attire, had once shared an unbreakable bond with his first wife, Ife. Their love was the envy of the entire village. People spoke of how they walked hand in hand to the stream and how their laughter filled the air like sweet music. Their love was crowned with a beautiful baby girl named Adaeze, a name chosen because her mother believed she was born to grace and royalty. Adah, as everyone fondly called her, was the village's little angel. Market women would call out, "Come and carry our Adah," and gift her mother yams, fruits, or fresh palm oil just to see her smile. Emeka's home was full of light, joy, and harmony. A year later, Ife's belly began to grow again, and happiness returned in double measure. "Nay," Emeka would say with laughter, "I can already feel it, our son kicks like a true warrior." Ife would roll her eyes playfully. "What if it's another princess?" she would tease. But Emeka always replied with certainty, "No, my heir is coming." When the day came, his words came true. The midwife's voice broke the dawn. "It's a boy!" Emeka danced around, shouting for joy. "My heir! My Obi is here!" The celebration lasted 3 days. The drums did not stop beating, and the smell of roasted goat meat filled the air. Everyone rejoiced with the happy family. But happiness, as they say, is a guest that doesn't always stay too long. Months after Obi's birth, a strange illness took hold of Ife. Her laughter faded into silence, her strength weakened by the day. Emeka tried everything, the best herbs, prayers, and even the traveling herbalist from a neighboring town, but nothing worked. One rainy evening, as thunder rolled in the sky, Ife called Emeka to her side. Her voice was weak, but gentle. "Take care of our children. Make sure they never suffer. I will always be with you in spirit." Those were her last words, before her eyes slowly closed forever. Emeka's cry that night echoed through the village. The man who once smiled every morning was broken. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and slowly, the house that once rang with laughter became quiet. Adah, still too young to understand death, would ask, "Papa, when will Mama come back?" And Emeka would hold her tight, fighting back tears. His sister, Chioma, who was still unmarried, moved in to help. She was gentle and kind to the children, especially little Adah. But when Chioma finally found a suitor and left to start her own family, Emeka found himself alone again, struggling to care for 2 small children. His business demanded travel, and he could not be both father and mother at once. The elders advised him to remarry. That was how Ezinne came into his life. She was beautiful, soft-spoken, and had a smile that could melt stones. She treated Adah and Obi with care at first, cooking their favorite meals and singing lullabies to them at night. The villagers whispered, "Emeka is blessed again." Slowly, laughter returned to the compound. Adah began to smile more, and Obi, now 3, ran around calling Ezinne Mama. Emeka was happy. He believed his late wife's spirit had finally sent him peace. But as time passed, the sweetness began to fade. When Ezinne became pregnant, her heart changed. The woman who once sang lullabies now shouted at the slightest mistake. "Adah, how many times have I told you not to leave your slippers there?" she would bark. Sometimes she would say cruel words that pierced Adah's young heart. "Don't kill me like you killed your mother." Adah would run to her room, crying quietly so her father wouldn't hear. Obi, too small to understand, would hide behind his sister, confused and afraid. When Emeka tried to talk to Ezinne, she would flare up in anger. "So, I am now the bad one, eh? You are defending your late wife's children against your pregnant wife." Did you marry me to be their slave?" Her voice would rise so high that even the neighbors would hear. Emeka would sigh deeply, unable to find peace in his own home. He began to stay home more often, reducing his travels just to ensure his children were safe. The cheerful man that once sang while sewing clothes now sat in silence, lost in thought. Months rolled by, and Ezinne gave birth to a baby girl. The cries of the newborn filled the air, and everyone came to celebrate. Ezinne smiled proudly, holding her baby close. "Now I have my own child in this house," she thought. "I will make sure she gets all the love and care I never had." To the villagers, she looked like a happy mother, but inside, her heart had turned cold toward Adah and Obi. She would serve her baby first and leave the older children hungry until late. She began to treat Adah like a servant, sending her on endless errands. "Go fetch water, go wash the clothes, go clean the compound," she would command. Adah obeyed without question, not wanting to cause trouble for her father. Emeka noticed the harsh treatments, but felt trapped between peace and truth. He wanted to protect his children, but every attempt to talk to his wife ended in more chaos. Ezinne's words would cut deep. "If you don't like how I run this house, send me away. But remember, I'm your wife, and I just gave you a child." One evening, Emeka sat outside, staring at the stars. Adah came quietly and sat beside him. Her little voice trembled as she asked, "Papa, did I do something wrong? Mama always looks at me like she hates me." Emeka's heart shattered. He lifted her onto his lap and brushed her hair gently. "No, my Adah, you did nothing wrong. You are my princess. Never forget that." But even as he said it, tears rolled down his face. He knew things were falling apart again. Inside, Ezinne rocked her baby to sleep, a strange smile playing on her lips. "Now, my daughter," she whispered, "you are my everything. I will make sure no one takes what belongs to us." She looked out the window at Emeka and Adah under the moonlight, her eyes narrowing with jealousy. "This house will know who truly owns it," she muttered to herself. The night was quiet, but in that silence, the seeds of pain were already growing seeds that would soon bear fruits of sorrow and betrayal in the once happy home of Emeka. Many seasons passed. Adah had grown into a beautiful young lady, graceful, humble, and hardworking, yet life had shown her little kindness. Every morning, she woke before the cock crowed, swept the entire compound, fetched water from the stream, cooked, washed, and did all that Ezinne and Ngozi commanded of her. She had become nothing more than a servant in the house that once belonged to her mother. Ezinne, on the other hand, had grown bitter and restless since the birth of her only child, Ngozi. She had tried countless herbs and visited several herbalists in her desperate attempt to conceive a son, but all had failed. At first, she wept and prayed for the gods to bless her womb again, but as time passed, her sorrow turned into anger and jealousy. Each time she saw Adah and Obi, she felt her heart twist with hatred. "Why must those motherless children still live in my house?" she would mutter to herself. "They remind me every day that I have failed as a woman. No son, no heir, just a daughter." She began to pour all her hopes and pride into Ngozi, pampering her beyond reason. She shielded the girl from every kind of work. "You must retain your beauty, my daughter," she would say, sitting in front of the hut as Adah scrubbed the floors. "A fine girl like you deserves a handsome, wealthy husband. Leave these chores to that one that motherless girl was born to serve." Emeka, though older and weaker, could not bear it anymore. One evening, as the sun set and the compound bathed in orange light, he called his wife. "Ezinne," he began in a calm voice, "you are not helping this girl. Ngozi is becoming lazy and mannerless. She knows nothing of housework, respect, or humility. If you love her, you must correct her now, before she brings shame to this household." Ezinne's face tightened in anger. "You always speak as if that girl you call Adah is your only child. Ngozi is my blood, my daughter. She is meant for greatness, not for scrubbing floors. If shame will come to this house, it will be from that Adah, not my Ngozi." Emeka sighed deeply and shook his head. "You have changed, Ezinne. The woman I married once had love in her heart. Now, I hardly recognize you." He stood slowly and walked away, his steps heavy with sadness. Not long after, Emeka decided to send Obi, his only son, to his sister's place in a nearby village to learn a trade. "You must become a man," Emeka said, "and one day you will return to lead this household when I am gone." Obi wept when leaving, hugging Adah tightly. "Sister," he whispered, "don't let them break you. You are stronger than you think." Adah smiled faintly through her tears. "Go, Obi. Make Papa proud. I will be fine." But deep down, she knew life without her brother's presence would become even harder. And she was right. With Obi gone, all the chores and insults doubled. Ezinne's voice grew sharper. Ngozi's pride soared higher. Adah became invisible, a shadow in her own home. Yet through all the pain, she remained gentle and kind, her spirit untouched by bitterness. Ngozi, on the other hand, had grown into a young woman beautiful but arrogant. Her mother's constant praise had made her vain, and she began to believe she was above everyone in the village. Her skin glowed from the oils Ezinne rubbed on her daily. Her hair was always braided finely, and she wore the best clothes her mother could afford. She never went to the stream, never cooked, never fetched firewood. Her only duty was to walk around, admire herself, and boast among her friends. One sunny afternoon, at the market square, Ngozi sat with her friends under the big mango tree. They were discussing beauty, suitors, and the latest gossip when a handsome young man approached them. He was tall, with broad shoulders and calm eyes that held a quiet confidence. His clothes were simple, but his presence commanded respect. "Good afternoon, beautiful ladies," he greeted with a polite bow. His voice was deep and warm. "I must say, I haven't seen such beauty in a while." His gaze rested briefly on Ngozi. "Please, may I have a word with you?" Ngozi glanced at him from head to toe, her lips curling in disdain. "I don't talk to wretched people," she said sharply. "You are not in the kind of man I give my attention to." Her friends gasped. "Ngozi!" one of them exclaimed. "Don't be rude. The young man only asked for a simple conversation." To do that, but Ngozi hissed, rolled her eyes, and stood up. "You girls can talk to peasants if you want. I don't waste time on nobodies." With that, she swung her hips and walked away. The young man, though embarrassed, tried to smile. Perhaps she is playing hard to get, he thought. He ran after her. "Please," he called. "I only want to know you. My name is Ezie." By the time they reached Emeka's compound, Adah was returning from the stream. A heavy pot of water balanced gracefully on her head. As Ezie approached the hut, Ngozi turned and shouted, "Stay away from me! I detest you! Don't ever follow me again!" Her voice echoed through the compound. Before anyone could react, she grabbed Adah's water pot and poured its contents all over Ezie. The water splashed across his clothes, soaking him completely. Adah gasped, "Ngozi, what have you done? That's not right!" But Ngozi only hissed and stormed inside, muttering insults under her breath. Ezie stood frozen, drenched and humiliated. Adah hurried to him. "I am so sorry," she said softly, handing him her small rag to help clean up. "Please forgive my sister. She is not always like that." Ezie forced a faint smile. "It's fine. I should not have followed her. Wait here," Adah said quickly. "Let me get you some of my father's clothes. You can change and return them later." She ran inside, avoiding Ezinne's sharp eyes, and came out with a folded wrapper and shirt. Ezie took them gratefully. "Thank you," he said. "You're very kind." That simple act of kindness stayed in his heart. The next morning, just as the first rays of sun touched the compound, Ezie returned, this time clean, and dressed neatly. He held the folded clothes carefully and asked to see Adah. When Adah stepped out, surprise lit her eyes. "I came to return these," he said, smiling, "and to thank you properly for your kindness yesterday." Before Adah could reply, laughter rang out from behind them. It was Ngozi, standing by the doorway, her hands on her hips. "Ah, so now you know your level, Ezie? You and that motherless girl, you're a perfect match. You fit each other well." Adah's face flushed with embarrassment, but Ezie stood firm. "Your words don't change who I am," he said calmly. "And they certainly don't change who she is." Ngozi hissed. "Mama!" she shouted. "Come and see the man I told you about, the one who embarrassed himself trying to talk to me." Ezinne emerged from the hut, adjusting her wrapper. Her eyes swept over Ezie like he was dirt on her floor. "So, you are the one following my daughter around?" she asked mockingly. "Listen well, my daughter will soon marry the son of Chief Ugo, the richest man in this village. She has no business with someone like you." Ezie bowed slightly, trying to remain respectful. "I meant no disrespect, Ma. I only came to thank Adah for her help." Ezinne's lip curled. "Adah?" she said, turning to glare at the young lady. "So you've started bringing men to my compound now, eh? You see your life?" Adah's eyes widened in shock. "No, Mama, I didn't." "Enough," Ezinne barked. "You can keep him if you want. The two of you are of the same kind, poor and hopeless. You deserve each other." She hissed and turned to her daughter. "Ngozi, come inside. Don't stand there talking to people beneath you." Ngozi smirked, gave Ezie one last mocking glance, and followed her mother inside. Ezie stood there for a moment, silent, his pride wounded but his heart steady. He turned to Adah, who stood trembling, her hands clasped tightly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Please don't take her words to heart." Ezie nodded slowly. "You have nothing to apologize for. I can see your heart is pure, Adah. That's all that matters." As he walked away, Adah watched him disappear down the narrow path that led to the market road. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt something she couldn't explain, a quiet warmth that flickered like a candle in the darkness of her troubled life. But inside the hut, Ezinne and Ngozi were already plotting, their voices low and sharp. "That girl," Ezinne said, "is becoming bold. If we don't watch her, she might bring shame to this family." Ngozi sneered. "Let her do her worst. She'll always remain beneath me." In Emeka's compound, a new kind of joy had begun to bloom, one that came from the soft laughter of Adaeze and the deep voice of Ezie, who had become the talk of the entire village. Few months had passed since that fateful day at Emeka's compound, when Adah met Ezie, and from that day onward, their bond had grown like a young palm tree watered by the rain. The two were inseparable. They went everywhere together, whether it was to fetch water, work on the farm, or pound yam in the courtyard. The villagers often teased them gently, calling them the lovebirds of Adaeze. Or, even Emeka, now older and slower, couldn't help but smile whenever he saw them together. "He seems a good boy," he would always say. "Adah, my daughter, this one is different. He is humble, hardworking, and respectful. I can see he truly loves you." "Papa," Adah would blush, covering her face with her wrapper. "Stop teasing me." Emeka laughed heartily. "I am only telling you the truth, my daughter. But listen, he must not waste time. If he is truly serious, let him come with his people and make his intentions known. That's how our people do it." Adah would smile shyly. "Yes, Papa." Life seemed peaceful again, at least for Emeka and his children. But in another corner of the compound, a storm was silently brewing. Ezinne had grown restless. Her bitterness, which had long festered in her heart, only deepened with each passing day. Her daughter, Ngozi, now a young woman, had taken after her in pride and arrogance. Together, they would sit in front of their hut, gossiping about Adah and mocking her every move. "See her," Ezinne would say with a sneer. "She thinks she has found love. She doesn't even know the kind of suffering waiting for her in that poor boy's house." Ngozi laughed mockingly. "Mama, can you imagine? She walks around with that poor Ezie as if she's won a prize. Look at me, I'm waiting for Chief Ugo's son to return. That one is rich and handsome. That's the kind of man that deserves me." Ezinne smiled proudly. "That's my daughter. You will marry into wealth, not poverty. Adah can continue chasing love. We will chase success." Ngozi had already started visiting Chief Ugo, pretending to help him with small chores just to stay in his good books. The old chief admired her confidence, but saw through her motives easily. One day, when she came to sweep his compound, he chuckled and said, "Ngozi, wait until my son returns. If he finds you worthy, he will bring you home to me." Ngozi smiled eagerly. "Ah, thank you, Chief. Please tell him not to waste time. I'm ready to be a good wife." The chief only smiled, shaking his head slowly. "My daughter, always be of good behavior. We never know what life throws at us." But Ngozi didn't understand the wisdom behind his words. She only heard what she wanted, the promise of a rich husband. A month later, Ezie came to Emeka's compound one morning. His face was serious, but his eyes sparkled with joy. He knelt before Emeka and spoke respectfully. "Papa," he began, "I have come to seek your blessing. I wish to formally ask for Adaze's hand in marriage. I would like to bring my family to come and meet you properly." Emeka's eyes lit up with happiness. "Ah, my son, you have made me the happiest man today. You are welcome with your people any time. But tell me, since you're not from our village, will you be returning to your place to inform your people?" Ezie smiled. "Yes, Papa. I will go home and come back in a fortnight with my people. We will come to pluck this beautiful flower." Adah, who was standing by the doorway, felt her heart flutter as Ezie looked at her and smiled. When the news spread across the village, people rejoiced. "Adaeze is getting married," they said. "The gods have blessed her." 2 weeks later, the day of the traditional wedding arrived. The compound was decorated with palm fronds and colorful fabrics. Women from the neighboring compounds helped with cooking. The sound of pounded yam filled the air with the rich aroma of Ezinne soup. The drummers began to play early in the morning, announcing the joyful occasion. Adah looked stunning in her traditional attire, a deep red wrapper with golden beads adorning her neck and wrists. Her father's sister, Chioma, had brought the outfit from her husband's village just for the event. Obi, now a grown man and a successful trader, had also returned to celebrate with his sister. He was proud of her and beamed with joy. Meanwhile, Ezinne and Ngozi were in a corner, watching with mockery. "Look at her," Ngozi said, rolling her eyes. "Marrying into poverty and still smiling like a fool." Ezinne smirked. "That's what happens when you have no mother to guide you. She doesn't know the value of wealth. Let her marry her poor farmer." Ngozi giggled. "When Chief Ugo's son comes back, I'll show this village what a real wedding looks like." But fate, as always, had its own plans. Soon, the sound of drums and singing filled the air. The guests began to murmur excitedly the groom's family had arrived. The men came first, dressed in fine traditional attires, followed by women carrying baskets filled with gifts, yam, palm wine, clothes, jewelry, and other items. Behind them walked a tall man in a rich embroidered wrapper, his walking stick glimmering in the sunlight. It was Chief Ugo himself. When Emeka saw him, he stood up in surprise. "Chief Ugo, what brings you here?" he asked. His voice was excited. Chief Ugo smiled warmly. "Don't worry, my friend. All will be revealed soon. Let us begin the ceremony first." The drumming intensified as Ezie walked in, handsomely dressed in a white outfit with coral beads around his neck. The villagers began to whisper among themselves. "This boy looks different today," one said. "There is something royal about him." Adah was soon called out. She walked gracefully into the courtyard, her eyes sparkling with happiness. The women sang joyfully, "Adaeze, our pride, dance and greet your husband." She knelt before her father as tradition demanded. Emeka smiled and poured her palm wine. "Go and show me the man you wish to marry," he said. Adah smiled shyly, took the cup of palm wine, and danced gently through the crowd until she reached Ezie. When she knelt before him, he smiled, took the cup, drank from it, and tucked money into it as a sign of respect and honor. The crowd erupted in cheers and claps. They both stood and danced back to Emeka, who blessed them. But before the celebration could continue, Chief Ugo stood up. The drummers stopped playing. The old chief cleared his throat and began to speak. "Today," he said, "I am the happiest man on earth. My son, who has been away for many years, returned recently. Before he came, he told me, 'Father, I want to choose my wife, myself, not by your wealth, not by your status, but by her heart.' So I agreed and told him to go into the village as an ordinary man, to see who would love him for who he is, not for what he has." The crowd listened attentively, curious where the story was going. He continued, "The first young woman he met rejected him because she thought he was poor and beneath her. Ironically, that was the same woman I had in mind for him. But I thank the gods for wisdom, because if I had forced it, my son would have married a heartless woman." At this, everyone turned to look at Ngozi and Ezinne, who stared back in disbelief. Their mouths hung open. and tears welled up in their eyes. Chief Ugo continued, "My son then met another young woman from this same Emeka's family, a humble, respectful, and well-trained daughter. She loved him, not knowing who he truly was. She treated him with kindness when others mocked him. Today, I am proud to say that woman is Adaeze, and I am happy to welcome her into my household as my daughter-in-law." The crowd erupted in joyous cheers. Drums rolled, women ululated, and men clapped. Ezinne and Ngozi stood frozen, unable to move. Chief Ugo smiled at Emeka. "You are a blessed man, Emeka. You have raised a virtuous daughter. I promise you, Adah will live a life of comfort, honor, and happiness. My son, Ezie, will ensure she lacks nothing, and you, my in-law, will also enjoy the blessings that come with this union." Emeka laughed heartily, tears of joy streaming down his face. "The gods are truly kind," he said. Adah turned to Ezie, tears filling her eyes. "So you are Chief Ugo's son all along? You disguised yourself?" Ezie nodded, holding her hands gently. "Yes, my love. I wanted a woman who would love me for who I am, not for my father's wealth. You have proven to be that woman. You saw my heart, not my pocket. I am proud to call you mine." The crowd clapped again, shouting praises and songs of joy. Ezie continued, "You have shown me that true beauty lies in humility and kindness. I promise to honor and love you all the days of my life." They embraced tightly as the drummers resumed their rhythm, and everyone began to dance. But not everyone was dancing. Ngozi's face was pale, her lips trembling as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Mama," she whispered, her voice shaking, "you have ruined my life. You told me to treat him badly. You said he was a nobody." Ezinne's hands trembled. "Ngozi, my daughter, please. I actually liked him, Mama," Ngozi cried louder, falling to her knees. "But I was too proud. You made me proud. You turned me into a monster. Now he's marrying Adah, the same girl you made me mock. I have lost everything, Mama. You have destroyed me." The entire compound went silent. Adah tried to move toward her, but Ezinne held her back. "Stay away," she snapped. Ngozi screamed, pushing her mother aside. "You're wicked, Mama. Everyone loves Adah, but they hate me because of how you raised me." She ran into the hut, tears blinding her eyes. Moments later, a loud crash was heard inside. Ezinne rushed in and found her daughter on the floor, clutching an empty bottle of poison. "Ngozi, no, my daughter," she screamed, shaking her. But it was too late. The villagers gathered, horrified. The celebration turned into mourning. Emeka fell to his knees, covering his face in grief. Adah wept uncontrollably, while Ezie tried to console her. When the elders arrived, they declared Ezinne responsible for her daughter's death. "You poisoned her spirit long before she poisoned her body," one of them said sternly. Ezinne was banished from Emeka's house. As she walked away in shame, the same villagers who once admired her beauty now turned their faces in disgust. From that day, Adah's life changed forever. She lived in comfort and peace, loved deeply by her husband, and respected by all. As for Ezinne, she wandered from village to village, haunted by her choices. Some said she eventually went mad. Others said she disappeared into the forest, never to be seen again. Dear viewers, share what you learned from this story with us in the comment section. If you would love us to upload more intriguing stories like this, kindly subscribe to this channel, like and share. Till next time, love you all.